More people should have taken Justin Trudeau seriously when, in 2013, he told a fawning crowd of seemingly bedazzled women that he admired communist China's authoritarian ability to crush dissent through suppression of rights.
There's a level of admiration I actually have for China because their basic dictatorship is allowing them to actually turn their economy around on a dime. I mean, there is a flexibility that I know Stephen Harper must dream about of having a dictatorship that he could do everything he wanted, that I find quite interesting.
Over the past weekend, Trudeau has shown the horrifically foreboding nature of his own words. Hi everyone, I'm Gardner Goldsmith for MRC-TV. You know, after announcing on February 14th that he was so-called invoking the 1988 Emergencies Act to institute martial law in Canada, and also after acknowledging that, as I noted for MRC-TV, the act not only doesn't grant, as they often say, any Canadian Prime Minister all the powers that Trudeau claimed, by the way, such as instituting crackdowns inside provinces without the explicit request of their premiers. Trudeau, for 3 days, has shown the world just how authoritarian he can make the machine of the state. Executing the Emergencies Act before Parliament has voted on allowing him to do so. By the way, the members were forcibly shut down on the 18th, and they're due to vote late on the 21st. Trudeau followed through on his threat in maddening strokes of jackbooted tyranny, literally commanding fully armored military-style police to violently corral, press into, batter, arrest, and horse trample protest participants and journalists, and destroying and seizing property as part of the Bolshevik bargain. Though in 2021, Trudeau saw his Liberal Party hand taxpayer cash to groups tied to Black Lives Matter, which in the U.S. already had caused over $2 billion in 2020 damages alone and brought incredible physical harm to many. And though the Canadian Prime Minister waxed his woke whiskers by taking a knee in BLM-style photo ops, he now has emerged as the most despotic North American antagonist to truly peaceful protesters. Indeed, starting late Thursday, February 17th, Trudeau got his goons to threaten seizure of children and seizure of protesters' pets. Pets the government will call abandoned and likely destroy after 8 days if the owners are arrested. And he promoted the seizure of bank accounts through the government corporate Palantir. Then he flooded Ottawa with masked, heavily armed cops who invaded on foot, in armored vehicles, and on horseback. Because as we all know, Trudeau cares so much about keeping the Canadian economy running that he embarked on a 2-year-long lockdown banning voluntary market activity and church association. He set arbitrary mRNA jab mandates on cross-border truckers, and he wants government-approved banks to freeze the accounts of folks who have supported the Freedom Convoy. Being such good Samaritans, Trudeau's tax-consuming shock troops somehow neglected their social distancing to flatten the curve mania, and instead used horses to flatten an elderly woman as cameras caught it all.
Oh my God! They just trampled this lady. They just trampled that lady.
Then they had the gall to claim the woman, who was using a rolling walker to stay upright, that she had thrown a bicycle at them. Oh sure, everyone knows that old ladies love tooling around on bikes in the Ottawa winter. In response, journalist Andrew Lawton posted on Twitter, quipping, quote, "Shopping for a new bicycle. Any recommendations?" If any of those cops had driven a car straight into that crowd and then struck an old woman, sending her to the hospital, one wonders if the leftists backing Trudeau would speak up, or if they're so numb to the brutal indignancies and crimes that collectivist power visits on innocents, they simply wouldn't care. As the post-millennial documented quite well over and over, the cops Trudeau and his cronies sent into the streets show that they care only for following orders and not one whit for human rights and well-being. Trampling rights? Trampling human flesh and bone? What's the difference, Trudeau? Gotta flatten the curve. Freedom to travel unmolested, supposedly enshrined in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms? It's considered archaic and lame. Freedom to engage in private contract? Shut down. Freedom of journalistic integrity? Extinguished at the end of a baton, as Rebel News reporter Alexa Lavoie discovered quite literally when Ottawa cops repeatedly hit her with their truncheons, and then at point-blank range shot a tear gas canister into her leg, leaving a grievous injury that has inspired Rebel News to bring suit against the Ottawa government thugs. Can those witnessing this brutality not see the demon of government power that always crouches, poised and ready to strike at any nonconformist? Can even a casual observer not see that the behavior of state agents in brutal regimes like Nazi Germany and Soviet Russia, even in Andrew Jackson's Trail of Tears, that they always are a possibility on any continent, that violence is always hiding? Are people blind to the fact that what Trudeau has rained down upon innocents is a manifestation of the dark heart of all statist paradigms, the presumption of the so-called legal use of aggressive violence for whatever so-called rationale? As well-known YouTuber and attorney Viva Fry noted on Twitter, quote, "If the police response to the protest in Ottawa is not the undoing of @Justin Trudeau, it is the undoing of Canada." Let no one be sanguine about this fact. All states, whether they have written so-called protections, such as the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms or the U.S. Constitution, all states are predicated on force. They see acquisitive, egomaniacal, corrupt, and self-congratulatory moralizers of every stripe breach the so-called rules, coughing up rationales, poisons such as fraudulent equity, class envy, racial power, nationalism, colonial hegemony, tax graft, regulatory power, for the children ideology, for your protection, mobsterism, or any other so-called justification. They cough them up of every stripe. Then they wield the thundering, assaulting, thieving, possibly murderous power of the state to achieve their ends. To them, the ends justify the means. To people who believe in the rights of their neighbors to be free, the ends are the means. In Ottawa, we see a stark difference, quite clearly, drawn in grotesque strokes. We see the difference between peaceful victims of lockdowns and mandates and jackbooted Ottawa government thugs who actually were caught saying, quote, "Just watch the horse video. That is awesome." And time for the protesters to hear our jackboots on the ground. Comparisons to 20th century tyrannies are more than apt here. They are utterly, precisely, morally required. And all of those who follow orders and who have followed orders for 2 years, they should know where they stand. We do. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. And please head to Rumble. Subscribe at Rumble, watch the videos there, and share them from Rumble if you get the opportunity, because Rumble does not censor us. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on Facebook. And please, as many times as you can, go to MRCTV.org to see what the whole team is doing. That's MRCTV.org. By the way, congratulations and thanks to Brittany for her great show last week. Watch for the Brittany Hughes show. She does awesome work. For MRC TV, I'm Gardner Goldsmith.